Presidente, quero expressar o meu total desacordo com a sua decisão discricionária e sem fundamento de recusar, sem justificação, a proposta de debate sobre o agravamento da situação humanitária em Gaza, na sequência das declarações do Coordenador Especial da ONU para o processo de paz no Médio Oriente. Na quinta-feira, a ONU declarou que mais de 1.800.000 palestinianos enfrentam fome extrema. Ontem mesmo, aquele coordenador especial da ONU emitiu um comunicado falando de pesadelo, cenas horripilantes na Zona Norte, ataques israelitas implacáveis e uma crise humanitária cada vez pior, e cito que nenhum lugar é seguro em Gaza, condenando os contínuos ataques contra civis. Aquele responsável disse a guerra tem de parar agora. Apesar de tudo isto ter acontecido em condições
continuing attacks on civilians, and we all know that the war must be brought to an end. A ceasefire must be achieved as soon as possible. You refused to authorize a debate. You rejected our proposal, Madam President. It has also been ruled out of order for us to have a vote on this request. Bombs are dropping on women, on children, on civilians, and as long as this continues to happen, we need to have this debate.
It is precisely because the rules need to be applied that decisions are taken. So, as you know, pursuant to Rule 164 of our Rules of Procedure, an amendment to the final draft agenda is admissible only in response to events or political developments which arose after the adoption of the final draft agenda. It is that reason why these are discussions that have been taking place already, could have been decided upon the adoption by the Conference of Presidents of this agenda, and it was not. I give the floor next to Ms. Virginie Joron.
Madame la Présidente, chers collègues, chers démocrates, chers légalistes, c'est un rappel au règlement en vertu de l'article 219 qui prévoit le respect de l'égalité des genres dans la composition des bureaux des commissions qui n'est pas respecté, comme le respect du résultat des urnes, c'est-à-dire la démocratie. En effet, Madame la Présidente, en ignorant plus de 20 millions de nos électeurs, vous avez accepté de ne pas respecter la démocratie en accordant une dérogation au principe de l'égalité des genres pour M. Weber dans plusieurs bureaux de commission. Comment pouvez-vous accepter qu'en commission compte, la commission qui contrôle le budget de l'Union européenne et qui doit donner l'exemple, continue de ne pas respecter nos règles? En commission compte, cette règle que vous souhaitez exporter jusqu'au Kazakhstan ou encore organiser une semaine dédiée à l'égalité des genres en décembre n'est pas respectée au cœur même de notre institution. La composition du bureau de la commission compte viole notre règlement avec l'absence d'une quatrième vice-présidence. Madame la Présidente, je vous remercie de faire le nécessaire pour mettre un terme à cette hypocrisie et respecter notre devise unie dans la diversité.
Respect our motto, United in Diversity.
Thank you very much. You refer to Rule 219, but you also know that political groups can effectively choose to derogate from that specific rule, which is what happened in this case, and that is the reality we are faced with and the work we are presented with. I give the floor next to Manon Aubry. Come on, wait. Ms. Aubry.
Ça tombe bien, chers collègues, j'avais envie de vous parler de démocratie et de faire un rappel au règlement sur la base de l'article 154 à propos des accords interinstitutionnels pour vous évoquer l'état des négociations entre l'Union européenne et le Mercosur. Et je vais commencer, chers collègues, par une question assez simple. Qui trouve cela normal que le plus important accord de libre-échange jamais conclu par l'Union européenne soit en train d'être signé en catimini sans que notre Parlement n'ait la moindre information telle qu'elle soit? Allez-y, dites-moi qui est d'accord avec ça et levez la main. Vous le voyez bien, j'ai fait les comptes. Ça fait exactement 5 ans que la Commission européenne n'a pas donné ni publié le moindre compte-rendu officiel sur l'état des négociations. Alors bien entendu, cet accord de libre-échange aura un impact désastreux sur nos agriculteurs qui souffrent déjà, sur la santé, sur la planète. Mes chers collègues, c'est aussi un scandale démocratique. Et comment accepter ainsi d'être tenu à l'écart? C'est pourquoi, Madame la Présidente, je vous demanderai de demander des comptes à la Commission européenne pour qu'elle nous tienne enfin informés. Parce qu'on ne peut pas se laisser ainsi, chers collègues, respectez votre mandat. On ne peut pas se laisser ainsi bananer par la Commission européenne. Il est temps de demander des comptes. Je vous remercie.
And now finally, Sebastian Tunkunen.
Madam President, I raise your attention to Rule 144 of the Rules of Procedure and more specifically to its Article 3. The rule stipulates that as a general rule, the questions shall be answered by the addressee within 6 weeks of being forwarded to it, and that those designated as priority questions shall be answered by the addressee within 3 weeks of being forwarded to it. Although I am new in this House, I know I am not the only one who has experienced that these deadlines are often not met. Madam President, I would warmly welcome any means that would push the Commission to better stick to these timelines set in the Rules of Procedure and respect the rules of this House. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tunkkunen. As you can see, your colleagues agree with you, so this is something that has been an outstanding issue, and we can put pressure on the incoming Commission to respect the deadlines that we have set. Thank you. So that's done with the points of order. We move to the proposals to change the agenda. Now for tomorrow, Tuesday, the Greens group has requested that a Commission statement on the outcome of the Italian court related to the agreement between Italy and Albania on migration be added on Tuesday afternoon as second item after question time. As a consequence, this sitting would be extended to 11. I give the floor to Ms. Terry Reintke to move the request.
Thank you, Madam President. Dear colleagues, last Friday an Italian court invalidated the detention of 16 asylum applicants sent to Albania by the Italian government. Italy is a democracy with an independent judiciary and courts that can freely rule on existing cases, also to stop illegal actions by the government. Still, members of the ruling far-right coalition, including members of the government, attacked this independent judiciary and the judges that ruled in this case. Colleagues, we cannot stay silent on this. Rule of law, including separation of powers, is a key fundament of the European Union. We have waited for far too long regarding Hungary to speak up. We cannot make the same mistake again. That is why my group requests a debate with the following title: Commission Statement regarding the ruling of the Italian court related to the agreement between Italy and Albania on migration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, I have two colleagues who have asked to speak against the request. First, Nicola Procaccini and then Thomas Tobé.
Thank you, President. Colleagues, first of all, there's a mistake in the title and in the meaning of the debate proposed by the Greens. The Italian court ruling mentioned by the colleagues deals with something else. It does not call into question the Italy-Albania agreement. An international agreement, of course, cannot be judged by a civil court. So, next time, please, colleagues, collect more accurate information or go back to school. Regarding any other proposed debates, I understand that there's a desire to discuss how to deal with legal and illegal migration. Fortunately, a debate is already planned for Wednesday morning, where we can compare our points of view for almost 2 hours. We will do it, you bet.
Thank you, Mr. Procaccini. Mr. Tobé.
Well, thank you, President. I think it is clear and already stated that this request should not be supported. It's very clear. It's not about the protocol about Italy and Albania, as you say in this, in what you're asking for. And also, it's not even a final decision in the court. And it's also a decision based on an EU directive that actually will be replaced once the new migration pact is fully adopted. And I think it's also about a general question, because we had a request in plenary before from the Patriots about another decision. And we could, of course, make this chamber to nothing else than debating different court decisions. I think when it comes to migration policy, we should be serious. We should be balanced, and we should use our time to actually debate real things and not only try to make court decisions that you may like or not like to be in favour of them. So that's why the EPP will reject this request.
Thank you. So I have also received an alternative proposal from the Renew Group, which is the Commission statement outcome of the Italian court related to the agreement between Italy and Albania on migration and the implementation of the pact. I give the floor to Ms. Keller, Fabienne Keller, to present the alternative. Please go ahead.
Oui, merci Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much, Madam President.
Nous savons que le pacte asile-migration, la politique migratoire, a occupé l'essentiel du Conseil européen de la fin de la semaine dernière. C'est un sujet de préoccupation pour nos concitoyens. Nous avons la fierté aussi, l'ensemble de cette Chambre, d'avoir adopté un pacte, un équilibre pour traiter la question de la migration illégale, mais en respectant nos valeurs. Nous savons aussi, chers collègues, qu'il nous faut encore 2 années pour le mettre en œuvre. Mais nous ne pouvons pas accepter qu'un État membre utilise une voie détournée pour contourner ce qui est prévu dans le pacte et les règles précises que nous avons définies ensemble. C'est pourquoi nous proposons de rebondir sur la proposition des Verts et d'ajouter la dimension mise en œuvre du pacte, évidemment, chers collègues, dans son ensemble, dans l'ensemble de ses devoirs, de l'application de ces règles, mais aussi des garanties des droits de l'homme et du respect des droits fondamentaux que nous y avons intégrés. C'est dans cet esprit que nous proposons ce débat amendé. Je vous remercie.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Keller. Now, Ms. Reintke, do you agree with the alternative proposal? So the Green Group does not, and therefore I put the request, the original request by the Greens Group, to the vote by roll call. Vote is open. Vote is closed. And it is rejected. And therefore, wait. I now ask Ms. Keller, do you want to keep your request? Yes, Ms. Keller wants to keep the request, so the proposal to the Renew Group is now put to a vote by roll call. Vote is closed. And it is rejected, so the agenda is unchanged. The agenda is now adopted, and the order of business is thus established. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon. Those of you who will stay for the next item, please stay in the room, and the rest, please exit quietly. Okay, dear colleagues, can I ask you to take your seats? We go to the first item as we mark International Day of the Eradication of Poverty. Could I ask the colleagues who are going to stay for this item to take their seats? The next item of the agenda is a statement of Parliament on the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. So last week, dear colleagues, on the 17th of October, we marked International Day of the Eradication of Poverty. Poverty is not inevitable. It is a challenge that we can and we must overcome. Across the world, far too many people still struggle. Far too many people do not have access to clean water, to clothing, shelter, healthcare or education. And far too many people are excluded from society, denied the possibility of a dignified job, not given the opportunities to achieve their potential. Given that 1 in 5 Europeans and 1 in 4 children under the age of 18 in the European Union is at risk of poverty or social exclusion, the reality is as serious as it is alarming. Here in the European Parliament, we refuse to be bystanders. We are proud of all the work we have done already in making our Europe a frontliner in the fight against poverty, and yet more work remains. Poverty is a symptom of inequality, and we understand the responsibility that we bear to ensure that every person, no matter who they are or where they come from, has a chance to live with dignity, with purpose. This is why the European Parliament is looking forward to seeing the European Union's first anti-poverty strategy that was announced in the 24-29 political guidelines of the European Commission. This is a positive step forward. By investing in education, affordable housing and job creation, by ensuring our social safety net works, we can lift millions out of poverty. This House will continue turning our policies into concrete action, and we will continue to fight for fairness, for dignity and for opportunity for all. We will now have a round of political group speakers, starting with the EPP, Lisbeth Sommen.
Geachte voorzitter, beste collega's. 17 oktober was het internationale dag tegen armoede. En zo'n dag is natuurlijk heel belangrijk, maar nog belangrijker is dat wij elke dag aandacht hebben voor mensen in armoede. Want armoede mag nooit een taboe zijn. Want collega's, die cijfers over armoede in de Europese Unie zijn echt verontrustend. En daarom ben ik zo blij met de EU-strategie tegen armoede die aangekondigd is door de commissievoorzitter. En belangrijk is, wij gaan die strategie uitvoeren met het brede sociale middenveld. Want wij moeten inzetten op die preventie tegen armoede, met een echt sociaal Europa dat werkt aan kwaliteitsvolle jobs en een echte Europese gezondheidsunie. En met die Europese kindgarantie hebben wij ook een belangrijk instrument in handen. Maar zeker belangrijk is ook dakloosheid. Dat moet een voorname plaats krijgen. Niet alleen in de Europese strategie tegen armoede, maar ook in het plan voor betaalbaar wonen op Europees niveau. En dit in samenwerking met het Europees platform ter bestrijding van dakloosheid. Want collega's, alleen samen en met een alomvattende strategie kunnen wij armoede echt uit de wereld helpen. Ik dank u.
Thank you. I give the floor next on behalf of the S&D Group to Gabi Bischoff.
Danke, Frau Vorsitzende, werte Kolleginnen und Kollegen. In der Tat, wir sprechen inzwischen von 100 Millionen Menschen, die von Armut und sozialer Ausgrenzung in Europa, einem der reichsten Kontinente, bedroht sind. Frau Präsidentin hat es gesagt, mehr als jeder 5. Mensch hier in Europa. Und dieser internationale Tag zur Abschaffung der Armut, der muss wirklich ein Weckruf hier sein, weil wir mehr brauchen. Ja, wir brauchen eine Armutsstrategie. Aber wir brauchen auch konkrete Politiken. Und eine davon ist in der Tat, dass wir ein festes Budget für die Kindergarantie von 20 Milliarden in einem eigenen ESF Plus brauchen, um die 19 Millionen Kinder, 19 Millionen gestohlene Zukunft, um die besser vor Armut zu schützen. Und brauchen Maßnahmen. Aber wir dürfen nicht nur national bleiben, sondern nach den Verträgen ist Armutsbekämpfung auch das Hauptziel der europäischen Entwicklungspolitik. Das muss so bleiben und muss unser Kompass sein zur Bekämpfung der Armut auf der ganzen Welt.
Vielen Dank. Next, Malika Sorrell for the PFP Group. 1 minute.
Chers collègues, 34% des Européens renoncent à des soins médicaux et nombre de nos jeunes sont en grande souffrance. C'est la tiers-mondisation de nos nations. L'Europe d'Hippocrate, de Pasteur et de Marie Curie n'est même plus capable de soigner les siens, tout en érigeant en dogme la préférence extra-européenne. Alors que la pauvreté touche chacune de nos nations, la Commission va verser 1,8 milliard d'euros à la Moldavie. Et l'immigration issue des couches sociales les plus pauvres bat des records. Pour Enrico Letta, aucune réforme, aucun progrès ne sera possible sans la participation des citoyens. Cette participation, je vous le dis, est impossible, car ces conditions ne sont pas réunies. Relisons Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Pour que les peuples soient vertueux, il faut d'abord leur faire aimer la patrie, mais ils ne pourront l'aimer si elle ne leur accorde que ce qu'elle ne peut refuser à personne. Nous sommes là au cœur du mal qui détruit l'Europe. Chers collègues, j'aimerais comprendre, est-ce l'indifférence ou pire, le cynisme qui conduit à nous lamenter sur une pauvreté que nous organisons? Je vous remercie.
Merci, Madame Sorrell. Chiara Gemma for the ECR Group.
Presidente, colleghi, la povertà non è soltanto una questione economica, è una piaga sociale che mina la dignità e la speranza delle persone. Combatterla è un dovere morale e una responsabilità politica che deve impegnarci tutti, senza eccezioni. C'è un aspetto che merita una particolare attenzione e che troppo spesso viene trascurato, la condizione delle persone con disabilità, che sono tra le più esposte al rischio di povertà. I dati parlano chiaro. Il 28,8% delle persone con disabilità in Europa vive in condizioni di povertà e di esclusione sociale. Questo dato è inaccettabile, soprattutto se pensiamo che stiamo parlando di una categoria già vulnerabile, che deve affrontare non solo le difficoltà economiche, ma anche le barriere strutturali, culturali e sociali che la società impone. Non possiamo tollerare che in un'Europa che si proclama paladina dei diritti umani e dell'inclusione, quasi un terzo delle persone con disabilità viva in condizioni di disagio economico. La nostra forza si misura dalla capacità di includere chi è già più debole. Grazie.
I give the floor now on behalf of Renew Europe, Charles Goerens.
Merci Madame la Présidente, Monsieur le Commissaire. La lutte contre la pauvreté doit se manifester tant à l'intérieur qu'à l'extérieur de l'Union européenne. Cela étant, la pratique semble confirmer ce propos. En effet, l'Union européenne, certes, n'a pas réussi à éliminer la pauvreté comme chacun de nous le souhaiterait. À sa décharge, rappelons que ces compétences sont insuffisantes pour régler ce problème. Les États membres, par contre, disposent de moyens ô combien supérieurs à ceux dont dispose la Commission. À ce propos, l'on constate que les États membres qui ont de meilleurs résultats en matière de lutte contre la misère chez eux sont souvent les mêmes que ceux qui s'impliquent aussi le plus dans la coopération au développement en faveur des pays du Sud. Cette corrélation n'est pas anodine. Elle nous fait penser que la solidarité est indivisible. C'est donc une question de cohérence, une question d'équité qui s'applique dans le même esprit tant à l'intérieur qu'à l'extérieur de l'Union européenne. Pour appuyer mon propos, il suffit de lire les rapports annuels du Programme des Nations Unies pour le développement et de comparer aux résultats obtenus à l'intérieur des États membres en matière de lutte contre la misère.
Now on behalf of the Greens Group, Maria Ohisalo.
Dear President, dear colleagues, I urge you to see poverty. Poverty that comes in millions of different forms. It can mean a person struggling without fresh water and housing thousands of kilometers away from here. But poverty can lurk in situations where your neighbor is not able to access medical care in time of need. Poverty can look like sleeping rough outside the European Parliament. But poverty can also come in the form of lack of empathy. Lack of empathy which prevents politicians from seeing the struggle of so many. Lack of empathy prevents politicians from making decisions that would eradicate poverty. Because we know that International Day of Eradication of Poverty and Homelessness is every day and it is every night. Dear colleagues, I urge you to see poverty, and I urge you to take concrete action and fight against it. And I urge the Commission to present an ambitious anti-poverty strategy with legislative proposals to reach our objectives.
Thank you. Next is Leila Shaibi for the Left Group.
Merci Madame la Présidente, Monsieur le Commissaire, chers collègues. En France, un jeune sur 4 vit sous le seuil de pauvreté. Un étudiant sur 2 est obligé de sauter un repas par jour. Vous vous souvenez de ces files d'attente interminables devant l'aide alimentaire pendant la pandémie de Covid? Ces images, elles avaient fait le tour du monde. C'était il y a 4 ans. Et qu'est-ce que s'est-il passé depuis? Rien. Pourquoi l'Union européenne ne demande-t-elle pas au gouvernement de proposer le repas à 1 euro pour les étudiants? Pourquoi continuons-nous à agir comme si la pauvreté était un phénomène météorologique, une espèce de catastrophe naturelle? Non, la pauvreté ne tombe pas du ciel. Sans inégalité, il n'y a pas de pauvreté. Bernard Arnault, l'homme le plus riche du monde, a vu sa fortune dépasser les 200 milliards d'euros. 200 milliards d'euros, c'est plus que le PIB de la Slovaquie. Imaginez ce qu'on pourrait faire avec cette somme. On pourrait faire 200 000 hôpitaux, 40 000 écoles. Vous voulez agir contre la pauvreté? Taxez les plus riches, taxez les multinationales, allez chercher l'argent là où il est. Merci.
Merci Madame Shaibi. Petar Volgin now for the ESN Group.
Скъпи колеги, дълго време силните на деня обясняваха, че когато глобализацията окончателно победи, когато бъдат премахнати всички държавни граници и всички държавни пречки пред бизнеса, ние ще станем богати и щастливи. Разказваха ни, че когато милионерът стане милиардер, това ще направи и нас, обикновените хора, богати. Защото нали, според постулатите на така наречената trickle-down economy или икономика на просмукването, приливът повдигал всички лодки. Само че действителността се оказа много по-различна. Да, богатите ставаха още по-богати, милионерите ставаха милиардери, но лодките на обикновените хора не се повдигаха. Даже много от тях потънаха. Колкото повече държавата минаваше на заден план, толкова повече се увеличаваха неравенствата и бедността. Има само един начин, по който може да бъде преодоляно това. Държавата отново трябва да стане активна. Тя трябва да създаде такива правила, които да помагат на работещите хора да живеят по-добре. Наднационалните институции няма да направят това. Те се грижат за интересите на мегакорпорациите. Нужна ни е повече държава и по-малко транснационални институции.
Mr. Enrico Letta, presentation of the report, much more than a market. Give me 1 second and I will invite Mr. Letta here. We have today with us former Prime Minister of Italy, Mr. Enrico Letta, to present his report, Much More Than a Market. Mr. Letta, caro Enrico, welcome back to the European Parliament. Your report came at an extremely timely moment. As we embark on a new legislative term, this House recognises that the future of Europe will be defined by our ability to make ourselves more competitive, how we are able to grow our economies and pay back our debts, to fuel our innovation and turn seemingly impossible challenges into opportunities, to create jobs and futures with dignity. That is what our people are asking from us, why Europeans went to the polls last June, and what our voters are expecting us to deliver on. To do with the needs of the current context. Boosting it also means doing more to level the playing field, to reduce excessive bureaucracy and to cut red tape. This is how our single market works best. So, Mr. Letta, dear Enrico, the European Parliament is eager to hear your findings and recommendations on how we can bolster our single market and make Europe more competitive. So please, Mr. Letta, the floor is yours.
Honourable President of the European Parliament, esteemed members, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to President Roberta Metsola, the members of the European Parliament, the groups. It is a particularly emotion for me to do so in this chamber, once chaired by David Sassoli. The last time I spoke from this very place was to commemorate him some days after his death. His legacy and his commitment to European values continues to guide and inspire all of us. I must also express my deep gratitude to those who commissioned this report and entrusted me with the responsibility to undertake it. The Belgian and Spanish presidency of the Council of the European Union, along with the President of the Commission and the President of the European Council. It is a great honour for me to be here today, especially after a year of engaging with the European Parliament, more than 20 meetings, groups, committees, the IMCO committee in particular, subcommittees, fostering meaningful dialogue and collaboration. This is a decisive moment for the life of the report. The pragmatic proposals it contains can only make a real impact if this very chamber embraces and advances them. This report is not mine. I bear full responsibility for it, of course, but above all, it is the result of a collective exercise developed during a journey that spanned almost the entire European Union, reaching out also to candidate countries for accession and non-EU countries that share with us the single market.